All right, thank you everyone. So we're going to do a bit of story talking about our experiences with physical breaches. So the content for today is going to be, we're going to give a quick, well, the intro has already been done about us. We're going to give a quick background about red teaming and what it's about, but we're going to keep it very light. Then we're going to start with our stories. I have one story today, Moritz has two. And then at the end we'll do a quick takeaways and QA at the very end. So just a disclaimer, all the story details are of course anonymized. We're not going to disclose any names, or locations or dates. So who am I? Well, you've already heard, I'm Firat. I've been at Envisa for 4 years and I'm a red teamer in the Aris team. And then we have my colleague Moritz. Yeah, he's also at Envisa for, I believe, like 4 years or something, 5 years, and also a red teamer in the Aris team, which stands for Adversarial Risk Emulation and Simulation. So a very quick background, what's the difference between pen testing and red teaming? So with pen testing, you basically have like a web app or an internal network or mobile app, etc. And you do like security testing on it. The customer is fully aware of what you're doing and you try to find as many vulnerabilities as possible. With red teaming, you basically do a whole attack simulation against a company as a whole. So you try to be stealthy, you get in via phishing, assume breach where they give you entry, or you do like physical breaches, which we're going to talk about. Then there's a few terms that you need to know with red teaming, who is who. So basically the red team, that's Moritz and I. We are the guys who break in, the bad guys basically. Well, we do it for ethical reasons, but we are supposed to not get caught and reach our objectives at the end of the red team. You have the blue team, they try to make the life difficult for us, they try to catch us, they are basically the defensive team, and we have to be stealthy for them and try not to get caught. And usually they are also, well, they are normally not aware of the operation unless we get caught and they say like, okay, you can continue now, but we'll keep an eye on you. And then you have the white team. They are basically the connection between us, the red team, and the blue team. They will basically let the red team know what's going on, like, hey, an alert has popped up, you guys have been detected, or the blue team seems to be suspicious of some activities going on in the network. And then it's story time. And I'm already going to give the mic to my colleague Moritz. He's going to do his first story.
All right. Hi, everyone. So it's my turn to talk about the mountain base project. That was a really, really cool one, I believe. So as you can see, it's a industrial facility built into a mountain. Well, it already sounds pretty James Bond stuff, I believe. It was pretty cool. It was very remote, though, as you could imagine, because you usually don't find mountains in the center of a city, right? But the objectives for this project were to gain physical access to this facility, to, well, get in there, and also to plant a rogue device. So a remote control device planted there by us, so we could then also access their industrial network. So that was pretty much the crown jewels of that facility. Now, how would you approach doing something like that? Well, here's what we did. Of course, we start with some reconnaissance. First, OSINT. So we try to find out as much as possible without touching the objective or really engaging with them, but only leveraging open source information like YouTube, Google Maps, social media. And this is just a wealth of information you couldn't find there. So the world is pretty much your oyster there. And we found some pretty interesting stuff. So just doing some lookups on Google Maps, you could already see some interesting pictures. So yeah, it is indeed built into a mountain. You can see there's just the raw rock face there. There are some groups of people wearing hard hats. There's some rails. Okay, already interesting. You can also see some pictures of the outside. Then doing some more Google searches or Google image searches, then you can find that there was actually a 3D map of the facility. Super interesting for us. But as you can see, it's not annotated or anything. This is not the actual picture, of course, but a similar one. It's not annotated really, so we don't really know what we can find or where we can find it. But we already get an idea that this is a very big facility. Well, we drew some conclusions from this information. So it's a very remote location by the nature of the facility, right? It has a very extensive underground area, so it won't be easy to cover, won't be easy to find interesting things there in a timely manner. And of course, it's closed to public. But what our research surfaced was that there are guided tours, which is nice because you could potentially infiltrate them, right? That's cool. So let's keep this in the back of our minds. We then proceeded to do what we call embedded recon. So we go there on site and try to have a look from some distance. And the focus there is to have a look at the physical access controls. So like, are there any doors, locks, whatever? And the perimeter barriers and the perimeter security. So like CCTV, any alarm systems. Yeah, but how do we do that? You know, it's just an industrial facility. So we found this is by the roadside. It's pretty remote. We could just drive up there at night and act like we were just taking a break, because it's just that part is a public place, so that's okay to do. We did this and had a brief look, and we found out, hey, there are high security locks. Might be very hard to lockpick. Let's maybe not do that. There are also keypads and card readers. Might be interesting to have a look at. And at least during the day, there's a lot of traffic. So that might be good for us, might be bad for us, remains to be seen. So what are our options here? So here are some techniques that we could employ there. Access card cloning. They got card readers. Cool. Would be very tricky to get a hold of a card though, because nobody usually leaves their card by the entrance, so that's not an option. We didn't want to fiddle really with the alarm or CCTV systems, so because that would possibly trigger alarms. Don't do that. We won't try and attempt to lockpick some high security locks, so that's out of the question. Also, we didn't really feel like spending a whole lot of time there trying to disassemble and try to fiddle around with the keycard reader, so I ain't gonna do that. Social engineering sounds interesting, so we will keep that open. Destructive entry though? No, that would be too much. Also, the client didn't want us to, so let's not do that. But, you know, once we got entry and access there, what we could do is try and establish persistence. So try to stick around there, to distance ourselves from a group that we joined there and just separate us. And maybe just try and stay there until they're closing down. And then we would have free access to the facility. Could be nice. So here's what we did. We tried to go ahead with the social engineering and persistence approach. So we knew there were guided tours. 2 caveats though, 2 problems. First one is it's for a group size of at least 10 people. We were 2 colleagues. There was a problem. And the other problem was that you have to register for such a guided tour 8 weeks in advance. We were there for 2 more days. Doesn't check out. Okay, but the white team said, that's not a problem. Coincidentally, the next morning, there will be a guided tour for new joiners. Try and infiltrate that, maybe. And we said, hey, cool, we're going to do that. That's cool. So we developed a background story. We said, you know, we are from a remote branch. We happen to be here by coincidence. Let's maybe just join. We were invited here. Might be a good idea. So we went there. This is at a mountain. It is at a very high altitude. It was snowing a whole lot. We were freezing like hell. And at some point, the bus with the people for this tour arrived. They were pretty late too, so we were freezing our butts off. But anyways, they arrived. They got out of the bus. There was a very lovely HR lady which approached us and said, "Hey, who are you? Who are you guys? What are you doing here?" We told our story, and she was like, "Oh wow, I had no idea. I wasn't told. But hey, that's great. If we could make this happen, that would be so cool. Come ahead." So we went in there, had a very interesting tour, super interesting, really. And we were left to ourselves, right? That was cool. But then 5 minutes later, she came back and was like, you know, I had a call with HR HQ, and they said they don't know about anybody joining. So what's your name? Can I maybe then verify and check? We gave some fake personas that we prepared in advance. We were again left alone. Cool. We continued the tour. Was all nice. But again, 5 minutes later, she came back and was like, I had another call with HR. We couldn't find your names. So, who's your manager? Who else can we call? And then we stumbled a bit. We were like, you know, the onboarding of our branch is known to be very, very bad. You know, we didn't even get to know our own manager yet. We just joined yesterday. We didn't even get to know them. And at this point, she was like, no. And she had a face that said, you can't really play games with me. So we said, oh, let's not do that. And she asked us to leave. She said, this is an internal event. We can't really verify your identity. Please leave. So we did that. There was a worker who escorted us outside. And he was like, you know, I don't get it. There are public guided tours here. Why does it play a role if you're now a joiner or not, whether you're an employee or not? We tried maybe talking him into letting us remain there, right? But then again, we knew that if we encountered this HR lady again, we would be busted for good. So we didn't. This was half a win, actually, because they did not raise an alert just there yet. So we didn't have to give up our cover story. We didn't have to admit that this was indeed an assessment. This was just a job well done by her. And that's good for the customer, I guess. So just to draw a quick result here, this lady was very process-oriented. any deviations from this, one of those processes, they spark suspicion. That was good for her, bad for us, right? She was incredibly persistent and assertive. But as an aftermath, they actually raised an internal incident at HQ. That was interesting. But at that point, we were like, we won't just stop there, because we want to simulate what happens if we actually got there, if this was successful. So the white team said, we are going to escort you, we are going to get you in at night, and then you can simulate what you would have done if this first attempt was successful. So we went back there. It was night, still snowing, still cold. A white team member actually escorted us there, and they disabled the alarms. That was cool. We knew what ground to cover. So we went in there, but didn't really know where to go, because we didn't get very far in that guided tour. So we explored the location, explored some more, uncomfortably long, and then we actually found a control room. That was very promising. We found a couple of interesting things here. First, there were 2 HMIs, so like control displays. The first one was unlocked, but with a very low privilege read-only user. Interesting, but not a crown jewel. The other one was locked, but had an actual username that had admin in its name, so that was already promising. But we didn't have any credentials, so that sucks. But there were a couple of drawers, and we had all the time in the world, we believed. So we browsed around, found some files, and just like in any bad sketch, I guess, there was actually the clear text credentials for that second HMI. So we unlocked that. That was great for us, bad for the customer again, but a good learning for them. But we still didn't get to plant our device, because we didn't find a network jack of which we believed that this would really be interfacing with the OT network there. But there was a printer, and that one was connected to a network socket that had the same color as those HMIs. We had this suspicion that if we took those HMIs off of the network, there would be an alarm triggered. That's not good. But would there be an alarm triggered for a disconnected printer? Maybe not. So we disconnected that, added our network switch, added our network device, and we're good to go. Cool. Yeah, but then actually, like 2 minutes later, the telephone rang. And remember, that was like at midnight, and the telephone rings. That's a bad sign, right? So my colleague and I locked eyes, and we were like, oh shit, what's going to happen here? And then we had a look at the white team guy, and he was like, yeah, guys, there's possibly going to be security. And if I were you, I'd run, because they're going to be here in 5 minutes. Yeah, so we did. Remember, that was a very extensive area. I was not only breaking my sweat on that way. So we got out of there, and we decided, okay, let's maybe wait to see what happens. Is security actually going to come? Because nobody was inside anymore, right? So they had to get there and then face us there. So we went outside and waited and looked around, and nobody came. Like for 30 minutes. No joke. We were all pretty much puzzled. Continued looking around. Nobody was coming. So that was a bit of a letdown, but again, a good way for the customer, I believe, to actually improve on that aspect. So to draw some results here, the leg up was successful, I'd say. It turned out they only had heavy security at the entrance. Well, got us pretty far actually, and they did also raise a local incident. But they didn't draw any connections to the first incident, which was weird. And they then also the next day concluded a plant-wide investigation in search. Because they knew there were some alarms being triggered there on the network side. Something must have happened. Yeah, well, they didn't even find our device, it turned out. So also something they then could improve on. And then I'm gonna hand control back to Firat.
Yeah, so who are you? That's my story for today. Basically, I had to get into an office building and gain physical access, and then also plant a rogue device, but also take picture of sensitive documents or other laptops that are left behind that I could find. So for the recon, I went to the building during noon break just to see what people do when they go out for food. I saw that it's a pretty large office, well, medium large. There was a revolving door, which was the only entrance into the office. And I saw that, well, it was see-through all the windows, so I could see that the elevators are in front of a receptionist desk. I thought to myself, okay, tailgating looks possible because I saw a lot of people coming in and out, and the doors basically kept spinning while people were batching. I also saw people in the streets wearing company merch, so I thought, okay, I'll just go grab some food and I'll follow whoever I can find that has merch from the company on. I thought to myself, okay, I'm not going to need a fake badge. This looks quite easy. I'm just going to follow people and I'll see what I do inside. Some improvisation, basically. So I went to action pretty much immediately. I didn't prepare too much for this one. But of course, it wasn't as easy as it looked. The doors require badges, and even if you try, because I was waiting outside, when I saw someone from inside was coming and badged, I went inside the door from the outside, and then it suddenly stopped halfway and turned us back slowly, which was a bit awkward because we locked eyes, and the guy gave me this kind of look like, yeah, you can't do that. And I tried it again afterwards. Maybe something was wrong, but it didn't work the second time, which was also awkward again. Eventually, I saw someone standing outside having a smoke, and I talked to them, and I basically gave them this story, which is quite effective, by the way. Like, hey, I'm a consultant, like last-minute replacement. I need to be inside, but I'm quite early. Could I go to the toilet or something like this? Because I really have to, and I have to wait like an hour or two still. He's like, actually, the receptionist lady is coming up right now. She's coming back with her food. Like, I'll send you to her, which I didn't really like because I didn't want to be talking to the receptionist lady. But she basically guided me in and asked me some questions like, who are you here for? Like, what do you do? Like, what is his contact details? And I gave her the details of a person that I knew in the company, but only first name. I didn't give her the phone number. She didn't really ask afterwards. So I was inside, thinking, okay, good, I'm inside, but what am I gonna do here? She was sitting there and obviously waiting for me, for someone to come and pick me up. I was thinking, okay, good. First, I bypassed the doors, but now I'm sitting here and I don't really have anywhere to go. I had my bag of food with me though, because I went for a noon break. I was actually hungry. Everywhere I looked required badges though, even the elevators, so I couldn't just walk off and go upstairs and expect her not to notice. After a while, she said, do you want to eat your food in the canteen? And I was like, you know what, I'm fine. I'll just eat it here. It's fine. I'll wait for my contact person. But actually 3 minutes later, I was thinking like, well, of course, yeah, I would actually like to go. I would actually like to go to the canteen. Like, why wouldn't I? Because the canteen also required a badge and everyone's eating there right now because it's noon break. So she actually did guide me to the canteen, with her badge. And I was sitting there eating my food, and I saw, of course, everyone around me had the merch on because there were multiple companies in the building. So I saw, okay, this table is getting ready to stand up. So I thought I'm going to follow them outside of the canteen, and I'm going to follow them into the elevators. But of course, they didn't go into the elevator. They just went outside, and I was outside of the canteen waiting in the hall, hiding from the receptionist because there was only a small wall separating me from the receptionist lady. And I was standing there thinking, all right, I'll just wait here. Eventually, a group did pass by, and I followed them into the elevator. The lady could actually see me, but I tried to hide between the crowds from her so she wouldn't notice. And yeah, I basically followed them to whatever floor they would go to. They were very nice and opened the door for me to go into the office as well. And I thought, okay, good, I'm in. I sat down somewhere at a desk, and two guys came up to me and had a small chat. They were looking at me as if like, hey, there's a new guy here, let's talk to him. But they left afterwards, and I was like, okay, great. Now I can finally get going, plant my rogue device, have some recon in the office. But of course, they came back and they brought someone else, the receptionist lady, who was very, very shocked to see me in there. She was almost angry, and she started asking me rapid-fire questions together with the other guys. She was like, what are you doing here? You were supposed to be waiting downstairs for your contact person. The other guy says, what are you doing here? This is actually a very sensitive department. You're not supposed to be here. It's a department where everyone knows each other. And the other person asked, can I have a contact person and their number? I have to call them. So basically they were asking questions through each other, and I tried to answer everyone. I gave them the story. Yeah, I don't know. My manager is out of office. The guy that I'm supposed to contact is out of office or sick, is not picking up his phone. Eventually the one guy forgot about the question of giving him the number of the contact person. And after a while I actually managed to convince them to let me go. And then one guy actually came with all right, I will guide you outside, and I'm also going to get you a visitor's badge. So I got very lucky there. So that was great. I went outside, we talked for a bit, we went to pick up the visitors badge, and then we went back to the office. But of course, I was a bit stupid. Sometimes you shouldn't really talk to people, especially when you've already won. I went to the receptionist lady. I asked her, like, okay, which floor am I supposed to be on? Because I don't want to enter the wrong floor again. And she was like, she got suspicious, and I was like, you know what? Actually, do come with me. And she brought me to the security room where the people did ask me the questions, and I had to wait for someone to pick me up. And we considered that a leg up, but the white team did actually tell me, okay, technically you've won because you had the badge, but you just shouldn't have talked after that. So, yeah, that was it for my story. I'm going to give back to my colleague.
All right. So, another industrial plant. This one wasn't underground this time, though, and not as extensive as Bing Creator makes it seem. But let's have a look. So again, objectives was gain physical access to the facility, and then also gain access to servers that were hosted on-site locally. Those were servers that controlled various parts of the facility. They just wanted us to get access, not to fiddle around with them, of course. So again, we did our recon. Again, I was in, and we found a satellite image from Google Maps. And we could see again, yeah, well, it's remote, as you would suspect from an industrial installation. But there are parking lots, there are only very few buildings, but a very open area there. That might be tricky. We also got some street view images, which was very helpful to get an idea, okay, just how big is this facility? Where are the fences exactly? Are they tall enough? Are they too tall to climb? Are there any security installations there? Well, there were lots. But yeah, we again found out remote location, very extensive area. And this one was fully closed to the public, no guided tours whatsoever. And aside from this, not a whole lot we could actually find out via OSINT. This was a bit depressing, honestly. But we went ahead and did some recon there again and found out those guys, they were really prepared. So, regarding access, there was just a single gate and very few doors. Those doors were embedded into the fences. They were pretty much bolted down, and there was even more CCTV surveillance at those doors. There was a bit of a letdown. And then they had lots of cameras. Lots and lots and lots of cameras. Not only cameras, but wide-angle cameras. They got thermal vision cameras. They got night vision cameras. Dude, there was excessive. Actually, the white team told us that, especially during the wintertime, we again were there at wintertime, the thermal cameras would obviously bust us. So not a good idea. And there was another interesting thing which we stumbled upon. There was those black boxes hanging on the fences. We noticed them because they were there in intervals of like 1 meter. And we were like, what the hell is that? We had a sneaking suspicion, and the white team confirmed those are vibration sensors. They even pick up on freaking birds sitting on the fence. So no way we could try and climb that stuff. But we found something interesting, even though there was a fence perimeter around the facility, and there was nothing really next to those fences or really in the vicinity there. There was one opportunity where there was a very small building, like an electrical cabinet of some sorts, right next to the fence on the outside. So theoretically, we could have climbed on this one, actually jump over the fence. There was like a 2-meter fence, so a bit risky. But, you know, it's not a very good option. So we presented our findings to the white team and said, you know, the first option, jump the fence. Easy to get in because it's easy to climb that cabinet. Not that easy to actually land safely then. But it's also incredibly hard to get out because there's a 2-meter fence. You will instantly detect us when we try to then scale that thing. Might be hard. Also, we then want to do this at night because during the day there's a whole bunch of people there. There's nobody there at night that we found out. But you know, it looks suspicious because there are some a residential area was nearby. There were people walking their dog even at freaking 11 p.m. I don't know. And there were cars driving by. So there was a very open area. You could have easily seen us because the whole facility was lit in the night. Okay, that's a bit tough. It was also, again, wintertime, so we couldn't really hide very well because there were footprints everywhere. If you just took a stroll in the snow, not a good idea. Us in the white team, we said, no, we won't do that. But, you know, there's also, at every assessment, this last straw. This is social engineering. The white team told us if you had more time to observe the location, you would have found out that there's a cleaning service coming by twice a week. Maybe do something with that. We said, okay, we're just going to build a pretext and say, as a background story, we are the replacement for that cleaning staff. We're going to get in there. Easy peasy. So the pretext requires very little preparation, simple execution, we thought, might be good enough. But the thing is though, usually those guys got keys or key cards to access limited areas. We obviously don't. So there might be a problem. White team said, let's go for it. And we went for it. So we said, okay, let's go to the hardware store, get some cleaning supplies. I think it was a total of 70 euros. And get there just short of, just briefly before lunchtime. And we went there to the gate. They asked us, obviously, what are you guys doing here? We were like, we're the replacements. The other guys are sick. Let us in. They let us in. Easy peasy. So there we were. White team already told us where to go. We need to go there. So we could just go there, right? And we pretty much did. What we feared was that this was crawling of people. Turns out, no, lunchtime. Nobody's there. Really, nobody. We were just in time there for lunchtime, which was great. Everybody was at the cafeteria. So cool. We could just go away. We went there. Then we were at this target building of ours. So just a very tall building, massive glass front. We couldn't really get in because there was a card reader, but somebody came by and we just asked them, again, where are the replacements? Could you open for us? He was like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'm going to open for you. And we were in. That was surprisingly easy, but there was only one way and that led upstairs. So we were sitting there and we were sitting duck because slowly people were coming back from the lunch break. And they were seeing us there idling by. And why were we idling by? Because every single door we saw had those big fat warning signs saying, if you go there, there's electricity, gases, and chemicals going to kill you. Don't go there. And obviously we didn't want to risk our own health, and we didn't want to compromise the integrity of the facility, so we called the white team. White team didn't pick up. What do you do then? Well, we acted like we belonged. We started actually cleaning that stuff. And it needed cleaning. So, badly. Then we actually got a hold of the white team and they told us where to go. So we went through the building, having them on the phone. And then we could finally get to our servers, but they were locked. Like the front panels of those server cabinets, they were locked. There was a huge letdown. But funnily enough, the side panels were not. So we could just literally unhinge without any tools the side panels and then reach the servers. So that was super easy again. Then we went out and everything was cool. 1 hour later, though, the original cleaning staff came. And they were like, yeah, we're here to do our job, right? And those guys at the reception, they were like, what the heck? What's going on? Obviously, there was some confusion, right? So, for some results, the social engineering was incredibly successful. They had heavy perimeter security, but they were also, I would say, lacking security awareness there. So, again, they raised a local incident. And even more than that was a bit weird. I've never seen this before, but they went ahead, grabbed the CCTV surveillance footage, and printed frickin' wanted posters of ours. They handed them out to co-workers and were like, if you see those guys, apprehend them at any cost. And now I actually got some takeaways for you. To most of you, I hope they are obvious already, or you knew them already, but really do trust but verify, be persistent and very assertive. People can tell you anything, and they will tell you anything just to get in. But verify. Challenge them. If you got any visitors on your facility, do have them escorted. Have some staff be in their vicinity. Have them, being monitored pretty much. And we actually had another story where we had the takeaway that if you got a visitor, always verify the contact person, right? They can name anybody. Ring them up. Ring those guys up. If you can't reach their contact person, don't let them in. It's, I guess, very basic stuff, but super important. And that pretty much concludes our talk. Thank you guys very much. It's been so fun. Almost on time.
So, where are the questions? Wonderful. And David can already pick up and put the laptop down to prepare for the next talk in the meanwhile.
Ja, komm mal mit hier. Ich gebe dir das.
Hello. Hello. Thanks for your talk. It was really cool. And I have tons of questions, but the first thing I'm a bit curious about. I mean, the thing is when, for example, with the fence, real attacker would not care about not cutting the fence. So is there, yes, you shall not disturb stuff, but is there any rule that you say, okay, let's pretend we cut the fence and then we go out on there? Because I mean, this would help you a bit, or for example, you destroy some encasing. And I wondered, is there some when you do this pen testing or this break-in, is there some procedure with the white team to say, okay, let's pretend we did this because a real attacker would actually break stuff?
Yeah, I mean that's what we call assume breached or a leg up, basically. So with a leg up, they say, okay, we're obviously not going to destroy stuff. We're not going to kidnap people or extort people. So if we see something like, say, hey, we could actually jump over here, then they're going to say, okay, we're going to let you guys in. They're going to maybe escort us through the building or to where we have to be, which actually they did for your talk, the first part, right? And then you continue from there. So yeah, we do it like that.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for the talk. Just maybe a stupid question, but how do you make sure that you don't get shot by a security guy? So I'm assuming you operate also in different countries and yeah.
Well, usually in Europe that's not an issue. That's not really a risk. Unless you try to infiltrate like a uranium refinement facility, but I'm not sure about that. No, I'm actually not sure if we ever had that risk really upon us. I don't think so, no. Like I think we only exclusively operate within Europe, right? So no, that's not an issue. Also, we do have get out of jail letters. So if we are faced with security personnel, right, we just show that and say, which says, here we were contracted by the customer, and here's a contact person or two, and they can then ring up those people, which they know, which are from their company, and they will then verify the story.
Had you ever the police show up?
Not during one of my assessments, but my manager always also says no, and he's been part of even more assessments than I. So.
Hi, thanks for that great talk. In your experience, how relevant is lockpicking nowadays? Is it used? Because one would think that anywhere serious has electronic locks, or can you lockpick and so it be useful?
Yeah, actually depends. When you got your auto security perimeters, those are usually equipped with high security locks or electronic measures, right? But indoors, that might also be an option, yeah. Have you actually used that?
I personally haven't done it, but we actually had a physical breach not too long ago from another colleague, and he actually did use some of the tools. If you guys have seen our vault, he actually used some of those tools to basically open doors without actually breaking them. So yeah, it is still relevant.
Okay, thank you, Firat, and thank you, Moritz, again.